In today's lesson, I'm going to demonstrate the pull-off technique. I'll show you how to practice it so that your pull-offs sound clear, clean, and rhythmically precise. And just like hammer-ons, I'll show you how to incorporate pull-offs into your playing. Because while many people learn them as a technical challenge, they often struggle with using them effectively in the songs that they want to play. So stick around until the end of this lesson where I'll walk you through some common musical scenarios for pull-offs. Real quick before we dive in, if you haven't downloaded my free ebook covering all the basics of lead guitar, I'll put a link to that in the corner. And if you enjoy learning guitar with me, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and say hi in the comments down below. I'm going to be playing an acoustic guitar just because it's a little easier to see, but I primarily play electric and all this stuff applies to both, so keep that in mind. There are many ways to perform a pull-off. And as you can see, pull-offs can involve different fingers, strings, and positions on the fretboard, and with so many variations, it can feel a little bit overwhelming. So I recommend focusing on one or two types that resonate with you the most or fit the style of music that you enjoy playing. And by the way, I've created a worksheet with all the tabs for this lesson, which is available on my Patreon page. There's a link to it down below if you're interested. For now, we're going to focus on three basic types of pull-offs. Closed position, like when you're playing, licks using a scale like the minor pentatonic scale. A famous example of this is the first couple measures of the guitar solo in Stairway to Heaven by Led Zeppelin. Then there are open position pull-offs, like when you're playing licks or melodies, going from a fretted note and then pulling off to the open string, like Spirit of the Radio by Rush. And the third way is within a chord shape. And you'll find those decorating basic chord progressions by any number of acoustic guitarists like Paul Simon or James Taylor. So let's start with the first type, using the pentatonic scale. We're going to place our ring finger on the 7th fret of the G string. And we're going to be pulling off to the 5th fret where we're going to be placing our index finger of that same string. So we have both our fingers down at the same time. My thumb is splitting the difference. It's right between them, kind of like the fulcrum of a teeter-totter. We're going to have both our fingers down. We pluck the string, and then we pull off our ring finger. And it might sound wimpy, like nothing's happening. And the key here is to actually flick your finger. So I'll do it in slow motion here. I'm actually pulling my ring finger down and I'm kind of plucking the string with it, but I'm coming out as well, because if I just keep going down, I'll make the higher strings ring out, right? So I'll do it with my middle finger just so it's not obscuring the view. See, I'm like pulling the string down and then I come out like a little check mark. And it's really important here to use the tip of your finger. If you're using the pad, it's going to be hard to it's just going to rub the string. It's not going to be able to pull it the same way that the tip of your finger can. It helps some people to think of it like a flick, like you're flicking your finger, You just flick it down and out to pull the string and make a sound, right? And as you're doing this and you're trying to get better at it, your goal is to match the volume of the pull-off to that of the plucked note. And that's a two-way street. If you pluck the note super hard, it's going to be hard to get your pull-off to be the same volume. So pluck a little more gently. You could even have the pull-off be louder than your plucked note. Ultimately, if your pull-off sounds too quiet, it's likely due to technique. And in this case, practice makes perfect. Don't expect it to sound good right away, and don't give up if it's not sounding good. This can take a while. Just go at it for 1 or 2 minutes every single day, and I guarantee you it'll come together. Now, once you're making a sound with your pull-off, the next thing you want to do is to add some rhythm to it. And there are a couple different ways. You can do grace notes where it's quick and almost unnoticeable. You know, that is the note that's getting the rhythm. This is just like a little decoration. Another way you can do it is you can actually give it some rhythm. You know, in this case, like an eighth note, like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, as opposed to the grace note where it's like 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's do a really simple pentatonic riff here. It's going to start with the exact same thing that we were just practicing on the G string. We're going to pull off from 7 to 5. Then we're going to go to the D string and do the same thing. And then we'll just come back up to the 7th fret of the D string just to kind of finalize our lick so it doesn't sound like an exercise. And rhythmically, it's just going to be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. It's really important to go slow and to count it out, because that way you will develop control and your pull-offs won't just be randomly timed, right? Another thing that we can do is we can practice the grace note pull-off. So we can just go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So we're just doing our pull-off really quick, right on beat 1, instead of waiting for the and after 1. 1 and 2 and 3. And to me, that does sound more like an exercise, but trust me, like, you'll end up using it and it'll sound cool. Now, with what we've learned so far, you have the foundation to tackle those other two ways. So let's take this and let's tackle that second kind of pull-off, going from a fretted note to an open string. And in this case, we can use our middle or our ring finger or even your index, since it doesn't need to catch the pull-off the same way that it did here, right? And I recommend being systematic about it. Just pick a couple of notes, like we could do the top 3 strings of the E minor pentatonic scale. So starting from the thinnest string, 3, O, then on the next string, 3, O, and then on the next string, 2, O. And to me, like, it kind of sounds like Back in Black. It's a little bit different. Anyways, to get there, we're going to start by putting our middle finger on the 3rd fret, and that's going to be for the top 2 strings, and then my index is going to handle that note on the 2nd fret of the G string. We pluck the string and we pull off. Pluck, pull off. It's the same thing, but since we're not landing on a finger, our hand is completely leaving, or our fingers are completely leaving the fretboard. So it's really important to have your thumb in a good spot and kind of use that as your pivot point, right? So I pluck the note, and then I pull down and I flick outward. Really making sure that my thumb doesn't leave the back of the neck and abandon me. And we go through. We go through the 3 strings just like that. 1 and 2 and 3 and. And one of the problems you might have is you might start plucking those higher strings, so you could even mute them. You do the. When I move on to the B string, as I pluck it, I'm going to touch my middle finger to the E string, and then I'll pluck the B string. And then, even if I run my finger through that string, it's not going to ring out. And then I do the same thing for the next one. And if that's not working, if it's a bit too much, we can always reduce it and just practice the same string over and over again. We could even try it with each finger 5 times, like 1, 2, 3. Do that 5 times with your middle finger. Then you do it 5 times with your ring finger. And you don't need to pull your hand way off, you just leave by like a couple centimeters or an inch or so, or even less actually. And then you do it with your index finger, and you could do it with your pinky finger, whatever you want to do. And you just go slow. You focus on accuracy and economy of movement, making it look smooth, making it sound good, taking your time, going through each finger, and that's going to make the biggest difference. Now, the last way that people commonly use pull-offs is to add texture to open chords. So on a C chord, a really good one is to pull off the index finger. You're pulling off from the 1st fret to the open string, and you can just do like a little picking pattern. So the pull-off it's part of the rhythm, right? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and you got to pull off right at the perfect time with the beat. And if you count out loud, that's not going to be too tricky. We could do it on a D chord, the 2nd fret of the high E string, so our middle finger of the D chord. Same thing. And you can create beautiful melodies this way that kind of just decorate chord progressions by, pulling off like one finger here and there while also maintaining the chord shape. For instance, I've been working on a little arrangement of Mother Nature's Son by the Beatles, and there's some hammer-ons in there too, but Either way, I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Don't forget to grab that worksheet on my Patreon page with all of these exercises mapped out. Also, if you want to dive deeper into lead guitar, my course, The Complete Lead Guitarist, is available on my website. I'll link it in the corner and down below. And if you enjoyed this lesson, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and let me know how your pull-off practice is going in the comments down below. Have fun practicing, and I'll see you soon.